Welcome to Forest Steel Producing and our 2021 Contractor Orientation. Plant driving rules are included but not limited to speed limits of 5 to 25 miles per hour. Seatbelts must be worn. You must obey stop signs. Yield to your coworkers. Stop at railroad crossings. Yield to emergency vehicles. Yield to mobile equipment. Have a valid driver's license. Headlights must be on at all times. Do not drive on restricted roadways unless authorized to do so. Do not park in designated no parking areas, and do not drive, walk through the plant, and or operate any equipment while using your cell phone. Personal protective equipment required: hard-toed shoes, hard hats, safety glasses with side shields. Hearing protection is mandatory throughout the department. CO and O2 monitors are required in gas hazard areas. You must have on a long sleeve shirt or jacket. Required red zone PPE, including coats, spats, flame retardant clothing, and other miscellaneous PPE required for specific jobs. Here is an overhead view of the department, highlighting the authorized walkway and hot metal track crossings. Hot metal tracks should only be crossed at the red arrows. The blue arrow indicates the overhead walkway and should be the main route of entry into the department. Emergency medical help. If a coworker suffers an injury or illness and medical assistance is needed, we must assure that they receive prompt medical attention. Call the medical clinic at 219-399-3131. Remember to speak slowly and clearly. Identify yourself, giving your name and your contractor name. Request an ambulance for a serious injury or a clinic van for a minor injury. Give the emergency station number that is listed on the telephone. Give the telephone number of the phone that you are calling from. Give a description of the location from which you are calling. Give information on what is wrong with the injured or ill employee. Do not hang up the phone until told by dispatcher to do so. Try to keep someone on the phone until the responders arrive. Send a coworker to the emergency station that the responders have been directed to. Keep necessary elevators and walkways clear. Cease any operations that may interfere with the medical crew's arrival. This is a map highlighting Forest Steel Producing's emergency stations. Emergency stations are red numbers inside of a black circle. Emergency evacuation assembly areas are the smiley faces. AEDs are located at the green dots throughout the department, and the areas highlighted in orange are gas hazard areas. The four main gas hazard areas throughout the department are the scrubber inside of all buildings and all levels, the lime plant inside the buildings, all levels, silos, firing buildings, and the baghouse, furnace, floors 4, 5, and 6, and the RHOB on the vessels, or floors 4, 5, and 6. Contractor employees working in proximity to a known or potential gas hazard environment need to be knowledgeable of the gas hazards and the safe work practices for the area, and be equipped with calibrated detection equipment. Some of our pulpits are protected by a Cardox system, which gives a wintergreen smell upon pre-discharge and should be evacuated immediately. One of the main gas hazards at Forest Steel Producing is carbon monoxide. Characteristics of it: it's an odorless, colorless, tasteless, explosive, toxic gas. It weighs about the same as air. It accumulates in your bloodstream. Symptoms of carbon monoxide include headache, nausea, aching muscles, a throbbing sensation in your head, sleepiness, unconsciousness, and dizziness. Confined space entry. What is a confined space? A confined space is a space that is large enough and so configured that an employee can bodily enter and perform assigned work, has limited or restricted means for entry or exit, and is not designed for continuous human occupancy. All three of these criteria must be met for it to be considered a confined space. Some examples of confined spaces are storage tanks, silos, vats, hoppers, utility vaults, tanks, sewers, pipes, access shafts, truck and rail cars, aircraft wings, process vessels, boilers, pressure vessels, tank-like compartments that only have a manhole for entry, spaces occupied by pipes and cables. Ditches and trenches may also be confined space when access or egress is limited. Confined space entry requirements. All entrants into the confined space shall wear a 4-gas monitor. All confined space monitors must monitor for the following 4 gases at a minimum: oxygen, flammability, carbon monoxide, and hydrogen sulfide. More gases may be monitored for based on the pre-entry determination. Confined spaces will be determined to be attendant or non-attendant required by the confined space pre-entry determination form. Contractors are responsible for providing their own confined space monitoring equipment, which may include monitors, docking stations, charging stations, etc. Lockout, tagout. 3 steps to a proper lockout include de-energize, lockout, and verify. This applies to all forms of energy such as kinetic, electric, radiation, hydraulic, mechanical, chemical, thermal, pneumatic, stored, steam, and other potential energy sources. Contractor employees must perform lockout in conjunction with the host department. Contractor employees must have a standardized lock that contains at least their individual's name and the company name. Where there is more than one person locking out, a multiple lockout device must be used and each employee must attach their lock. Group lock boxes can also be used to assure that each crew member has control of the lockout system by attaching their personal lock. You should verify lockout in accordance with the energy control procedure, which can be provided by the host department. Rail safety. You must request permission to take tracks out of service when working adjacent to, on, over, or under a railroad track or rolling equipment, or when rail movement may endanger persons or equipment. You must obtain clearance to display a blue signal through the railroad yardmaster or from the department responsible for the track before work begins. Keep railroad tracks unobstructed and maintain a minimum 10-foot clearance along the side of tracks at all times, unless clearance is obtained from the area that controls the track segment, railroad, or the department, and the railroad blue signal rule is followed. You must stop, look, and listen at all railroad crossings. Remember, rail always has the right-of-way. Three-way communication. Communication is very important, and you must always utilize three-way communication. The sender is to deliver the message to the receiver. The receiver should repeat the instructions to the sender, and the sender should confirm that the message was understood. The daily work authorization. Contractors should only be filling the boxes that are highlighted in blue. All other areas should be filled in by the host department. The daily work authorization form is used to relay information regarding the hazards identified and the controls to mitigate the hazards to the contractor performing work in the department. The DWA must be completed daily prior to the start of the shift with the appropriate person from the host department and the contractor supervision. Hazards associated with the work in the area as well as their controls should be checked off on the DWA form and discussed by the representative from the host department. Contractor supervisors shall then relay any information discussed with all the contractor employees. The high rack light process is a process to control the hazards while analyzing the job to be done. Meet before the job for 5 to 10 minutes to develop a safety plan. Complete the high rack light to identify and record hazards and controls associated with the job. Go through the form and check the boxes that answer the questions. If the question does not apply, then check the NA box. High rack light. Individuals performing the job will complete the high rack light with input from personnel doing work related to the job and personnel affected by the work. Should be completed prior to any of the following: a non-routine task where no written procedure exists and employees are unfamiliar with the task. If there's any change in conditions, you must review and revise the high rack light to include the new hazard. Must turn in the completed high rack light card to the supervisor or person that assigned the job. Management will track if further documentation or follow-ups are required and provide feedback to the contact person. Red hexagons checked. List controls in place to safely perform the task in the area provided on the card. Yellow triangle. Confirm the permit or high rack is completed. Green plus. No immediate action is required. NA box. Item or question does not apply. No hands-on lift. The use of positioning tools such as hand hooks, rods, bars, push sticks, position straps, ropes, taglines, and other means must be used to help guide and maneuver lifting equipment and the load into position. Make sure to take a position that ensures no part of your body is under the suspended load or in a pinch point. Interim procedure for hands-on lifts. If you must touch a lift or a load, this form is only to be valid for the duration of the lift. The crew responsible for the work must complete this form. Completed forms must be sent to the area or division manager for review after completion of the job. Overhead cranes. Before boarding or performing any maintenance on the crane or crane runways, you must communicate with the host department supervisor to receive permission. They will make the necessary arrangements to ensure that the requirements of the policy and procedure are followed. The crane operator must place all controllers in the off position and must pull the main cab switch and present themselves to view before boarding of any overhead crane. Mobile cranes and mobile equipment. Crane and mobile equipment operators need to be trained, evaluated, and determined qualified to safely operate such equipment. All lifts made with a mobile crane must be made with the outriggers extended to the outermost position possible. Seatbelts must be securely worn while operating mobile cranes and mobile equipment, including forklifts, with the exception of equipment not designed with rollover protection. A pre-use inspection form must be completed before operating any mobile equipment. Crane safety. Aerial lifts, mobile cranes, and other equipment extending into the path of a crane's movement must be controlled and monitored in one of the following ways. The overhead crane must be locked out. A pendant banner and rail stops must be installed at least 24 feet from the crane. Or a safety person must be assigned to ride in the crane cab to warn the crane operator if they start to approach the boom equipment or work area. Please refer to HS20 Cranes and Lifting for any crane safety questions. Fall protection and ladders. Fall protection is required whenever the potential of a fall of 4 feet or more exists. If any unprotected platform, open hole, or pit exists 4 feet deep or more, a guardrail and a restraint system must be provided. Fall protection is required in man lifts and aerial lifts. 100% tie-off is to be maintained at all times, including transitioning. Before each use, you must inspect your personal fall arrest system for damage and or deterioration and remove the defective components from service. You must securely tie, brace portable ladders to prevent accidental slipping and falling. Scaffolding must be inspected each work shift and after any event that could affect the structural integrity of the scaffold. Scaffolding should be inspected every 2 weeks by the erecting company. Roof safety. Do not go on any roof, tank, or vessel roof without approval. For all roofing activities, a safety monitor shall be in place on the roof or in a safe location where the full scope of the work can be viewed. This person is not responsible for supervising the job, but to provide continual safety auditing. The contractor must assess the condition of the roof prior to performing work and must evaluate potential exposure to electrical utilities. Safety harnesses and fall protection systems must be worn while any roof within the facility unless an adequate safety plan has been developed and approved in writing. A detailed map of the roof must also be created indicating the pathways the employees will take on the roof, access or egress points to and from the work site, locations where work will take place, locations where tools and materials will be stored, areas where tie-off is required and where it is not mandatory. For those areas where tie-off is required, transition points shall be highlighted on the map as well as the working range of employees, including the length of the lanyard. General hazards of the department. If EOT cranes carrying loads of molten iron, steel, slag, and slabs. Remote-controlled equipment and cranes. Process equipment is computer-controlled and may start at any time. Scrubber area hazards. CO gas monitors must be worn at all times. You have wet and slippery walking surfaces. Discharge waters could be 150 degrees with a pH of approximately 10. Steamy conditions with poor visibility. Be aware of the acid pumps at the blowdown filtration facility. Charge aisle scrapyard hazards. The Crest slag hauler at the north end carries molten slag and has high-pressure rear tires that can explode. Payloader transports scrap boxes to and from the scrapyard and scrap can fall out. Hot metal pew car movement by radio-controlled locomotive or carpooler. Always walk around pew cars by at least 25 feet. Slag pots may erupt on the transfer car or on the ground. Stay clear of the north and south skimmers for molten slag and iron splashing. Area from the fence on the east side to the barrier on the west side of the scrapyard is a restricted area. Furnace floor hazards. Must stay 75 feet back from the Calderon charger while it's operating as it is remote controlled. Check crosswalk signs for information on crossing the furnace. Furnaces can be passed on the tap side as long as the tap doors are closed, and be alert to any movement from the dart machine. Pit hazards. Watch for the red strobe lights above the furnace pits. If the lights are on, the furnaces are tapping or slagging off and you cannot cross in front of the furnace. Crane siren means that a lift is being transported. A continuous crane siren may be alerting to a ladle burn through. Teaming cars transferring ladles of steel, RC cranes used to lift ladle covers at the argon station, and mobile equipment entering or exiting the doors. Remember, do not cross the furnaces in the pit area while they're tapping or slagging off the furnace. RHOB, argon station hazards. It is a CO area above the 4th floor and on the vessel cars. Do not walk under the RHOB vessel cars as they may drip slag and or steel. Most equipment is computer controlled and can start at any time. Be observant of overhead crane movement and mobile equipment traffic in the repair yard area. Caster area hazards. The areas around the molds and pouring stand are red zone areas and proper red zone PPE is required. You have ladles passing over the floor by the crane or by the ladle turrets. Be aware of RC crane and mobile equipment in the service aisle and on the casting floor. Withdrawal or scarfer area hazards. Stay clear of the torch machines when they're cutting slabs. Never go near the flumes when the water is flowing. Always use the crossover walkways to cross the strands. Be aware of crane and rail movement in the shipping and scarfer areas. Line plant hazards. CO monitors are required. Heat from the firing hooks and ducts, lime and lime dust, conveyor belts and rollers, walk and work surface hazards on the gratings, rail, truck, and mobile equipment traffic, and respiratory protection is required in the silo building. Safety data sheets. Safety data sheets can be found on the ArcelorMittal intranet. See your department contact for information. All chemicals used in this plant require an SDS. OSHA's Hazard Communication Standards are regulation designed to help keep you safe. Chemicals you bring on site to use on a job must be cleared with the ArcelorMittal Environmental Department first. Environmental awareness. Forest Steel Producing has an ISO 14001 certified environmental management system. The guiding principle to ArcelorMittal's environmental policy is to protect and improve the environment. Contractors' environmental responsibilities. Must understand potential environmental impacts associated with work and whether work involves any significant environmental aspects. Conform to legal and contractual requirements. All storage containers greater than 55 gallons require registration through the In-Plant Service Administration. Must follow the procedures provided by Indiana Harbor employees and departments. Ensure that employees are competent to perform contracted work and document any training or education. Report any observed releases, spills, or other emergency situations per the plant procedures. Obey the plant speed limit for both safety and dust control. Do not dispose of used tires, drums, chemicals, or other waste in the plant without prior written approval. Do not disturb suspected asbestos-containing materials unless trained and contracted to do so. Handling of environmental issues. Must call the on-duty environmental engineer at 219-399-2492. Reference the Environmental Management System Contractor Quick Reference Guide or Asbestos Information Guide, or refer to the Contractor Safety, Health, and Environmental Handbook on the ArcelorMittal Procurement website. Asbestos management. Asbestos-containing materials are located throughout Forest Steel Producing. Before disturbing any suspected asbestos-containing materials, confirm the asbestos content by looking for labels and talking to your ArcelorMittal project manager. Possible friable materials include sprayed-on fireproofing, boiler or breaching insulation, plaster, pipe insulation, drywall products, duct insulation. Non-friable materials, which can become friable if mishandled, are roofing materials, vinyl floor tile, caulking, brake linings, valve packing materials, coated metal siding, linoleum, electrical wiring insulation, clutch plates, fire doors, ceiling tiles, adhesives, limit switches, gasket materials, or fire blankets. Asbestos identification. Blue bands, tested negative for asbestos. Red bands, tested positive for asbestos. Silver or no bands, not tested or not yet identified. Double bands, material is negative positive for asbestos from that point until an interruption of material or a different color band. Yellow tags, unique sample identifier for specific sample location. Unique red or blue markings, can be found on crane components or on yellow tags or any sampled material. Purple caution stickers. Assume material is asbestos until laboratory results are reported. Material is properly identified and caution sticker is removed. Lead paint and hot work. Lead painted items undisturbed cause minimal to no hazard, but when hot work is performed, the air quality will change and caution must be applied. Before disturbing unknown painted items for hot work, you must have it tested for lead paint. Contact your host department representative so they can have the material tested. Negative test results, continue your hot work activity. Positive test results, areas to be abated by qualified personnel before work can be continued. If disturbing metals inside of buildings and test results are positive for lead paint, proper ventilation must be provided per state requirements. Safety Management System. Indiana Harbor has a OSAS 18001 Certified Safety Management System. The key points. We are committed to prevent injuries and occupational illness. We are committed to improve health and safety management and performance. We are committed to comply with legal and other requirements. All employees share the responsibility for a safe and healthy workplace. Contractor Safety Management System responsibilities. Conform to the plant's safety management system. Refer to the safety management system contractor quick reference guide. Hold pre-job hazard risk assessment meetings. Complete the daily work authorization process. Provide Indiana Harbor Health and Safety with copies of health and safety regulatory inspection reports from on-site activities. Copies of any health and safety regulatory citations from on-site activities. Immediately report any unsafe conditions and correct them when possible. On-site incidences, injuries, near misses, equipment damages. Reporting of injuries and illnesses. All incidents, no matter the severity of the incident, must be reported to the host department representative immediately, no later than the end of the shift. All incidences must be investigated within 48 hours, and the results of the investigation must be sent to the Health and Safety Department. Investigation reports shall include a root cause, contributing cause, corrective actions, responsible persons, and completion dates. The host department will perform an additional investigation, which will include the contractor and those involved in the incident as well. Smoking. Smoking is prohibited inside all buildings. Housekeeping. You are responsible for worksite housekeeping and cleanliness. Precautions must be taken to prevent tripping hazards from hoses, welding leads, electrode stubs, water lines, tools, or small materials. Keep your work area clean. Dignity and respect. Forest Steel Producing is committed to a work environment in which all individuals are treated with respect and dignity. Each and every employee has a right to work in a professional atmosphere that promotes equal employment opportunities and prohibits discriminatory practices, including harassment. Forest Steel Producing will not tolerate any conduct that violates this policy. Anyone found to be in violation of this policy will be subject for removal. Safety is a fundamental value at Forest Steel Producing, and as such, Forest Steel Producing works vigorously to achieve a goal of 0 injuries and illnesses for all persons working under its control. Make the job safe or don't do it.